Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Catch Up After College podcast. We're catching up after college on the lessons of life lived by leaders. We're a safe space grounded in grace, and our aim is always to aid. We may be post-graduation, but we're never post-education. I'm Isaiah Brown, your host, and thank you for tuning in today. Today, I'm proud to have someone on the show who has the best last name ever, probably because we both have it, but it's Mr. Brenden Brown here with us today. What's going on?
Hey man, how's it going? So glad to be here with you.
Yeah, for
You're right
sure.
on that last name. That last name's a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty common, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, it's great to have you on the show. When I started, I had a list of people I wanted on it, and you're one of the first names. And here we are, finally doing
Here we
this.
are.
Yeah,
Fantastic. I'm glad to be here, man.
yeah, for sure. And we want to get to know you a bit better. Real talk, I kind of like social media stalk people before they come on the show. But I thought this was really interesting. Do you mind telling us what day you were born on?
Yeah, I was born on the 26th of December and 1977. I'm 42.
Nice. Okay. And that's a day after Christmas. How has that
The
been for
day
you?
after Christmas.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, it's been good and bad. Sometimes you get your parents who are amazing and they always gave you double presents. You get Christmas, you get your birthday, but then you get some of those, auntie, uncles, friends, family friends that just decide they want to combine and make one present. And
yeah.
then your brother usually gets the same present and he doesn't have a birthday. So it's going,
Dang. Yeah. I had a
yeah.
feeling that was going to be your answer, but yeah. Any memorable stories? Like, do you still have birthday parties around that time or you postpone it?
No, I definitely did. My parents were awesome at always celebrating, our birthdays as kids growing up. And so always had something. Usually my birthday parties would be held before, because we're in Australia, before the school holiday break. And we would break early December. So we'd have it start of December, my birthday party, just so people would come. Otherwise, everyone would go away on summer holidays, in Australia. But then growing up, once I hit my teenage years and that, I used to actually make my own invitations and call it Sounds on Boxing Day. And we used to literally set up DJs in the backyard of our house, and all our friends would come over, and we'd just have these huge parties. So yeah, it was fun.
Hey, that sounds
Now I
fun.
prefer just doing some dinners.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. It's all good. And you were a summer baby, but now I guess you're a winter baby. How has that been?
Yeah, I mean, we moved to America 3 years ago, or not even 3 years yet. It's about 2.5 years ago from Sydney. We moved to San Francisco, and yeah, it's been awesome. Absolutely love the winter months. They're my favorite months of the year, winter, even when I was in Australia.
Oh, okay. So no big deal then.
I love it. I love the winter fashion.
Yeah, nice. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
I like putting layers on and stuff. And
Yeah. All right. And you kind of told us before, but do you mind telling us again where you're from and also what was your life like before college?
yeah, I mean, my name's Brendan. I was born in Sydney, Australia. Lived there all my life, apart from one year in 1999. I lived in the UK. Lived in the Midlands of the UK, and that was awesome. But yeah, grew up in Australia. Lived there my whole life, and for me, college was at. I went to a few different colleges. I did a TAFE, a business certificate, and then I went and did a travel certificate in tourism. I was really trying to find myself in my teenage years. Coming out of school, I was pretty lost, pretty broken. Ended up running nightclubs in Sydney and taking a whole lot of drugs, and basically had an overdose. Thought I was going to die, and I sat on a corner of a curb or a gutter one night when I was 22, and I cried out to God and just said, "If you're real, help me." And then I found myself 6 months later at Hillsong Church in Sydney, Australia. And from there, 3 years later, I found myself at Hillsong Bible College, believe it or not. And I had this radical transformation, went from running nightclubs to starting to study about the things of God. And so, yeah, I went to Hillsong International Leadership College. It was absolutely amazing. Did 3 years there, got an advanced diploma, and then went on and did my degree in theology. It was at Alpha Crucis and finished that off. And yeah, so it's been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah. And you say you're running nightclubs. Has that in any way translated to the job you're doing now? Like good habits that you picked up from that that time, that season?
Yeah, I think you learn life lessons all the time, and whether they're good or bad, or whether they're educational or not, you grow and you learn and you evolve as a leader. And I learned a lot leading nightclubs about promotion, sales, hospitality. And so then you flip that over to what I'm doing now, and it's all about people. And so I feel like I learned a lot of stuff there. I always say that, the Bible talks about the gifts and callings of God are irrevocable, which means every single one of us is born with gifts and talents and abilities. And what I've discovered is I was always had this leadership gift. Growing up, I just didn't realize it was a leadership gift. I was selected to be the captain of my soccer team. And then always my mates were the ones like, what are we doing today? And I was the organizer and leader of the crew type thing. And then, obviously now using that leadership gift in a different way. I used to lead people into clubs and probably down the wrong path. Now I'm trying to lead them in the right way and into church, And so I think gifts and callings are there, and God doesn't take them away from us, but he does redeem them. And I guess put purpose to those gifts. And so I've discovered, even the sales gift is very similar to an evangelism gift. A prophetic gift is very similar to a creative gift, and so you start to see the nuances of how they just synergize together when they're redeemed in the kingdom.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. And you say you've been a part of a couple colleges. Do you mind telling us the similarities and the difference between the business school and the Hillsong College?
Yeah, look, when I came out of high school, I basically didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional, like soccer player. And in when was it, 1996, when I finished school, I came out and went on a European soccer tour with our New South Wales soccer state team, and we played against Barcelona, Real Madrid, Everton, Millwall, Blackburn, Crystal Palace. It was an amazing tour. But once I was there, I realized there is no way that we're going to make it. None of us are going to make it because we weren't training like they were training. And, they were just at a whole nother level. And so then I came back and I had an accident where a car ran over my leg. And basically I was out for 2 years, could hardly do anything, couldn't play sport. And so I really struggled with my identity and what I was doing. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to work in a pharmaceutical company. My uncle got me a job there and I started making multivitamins. And I did that for about a year. And then I was like, I don't like this at all. Like, this is not, what I feel called to do, or it didn't feel like it was just a job, I wasn't passionate about it. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to try business. And so I went and studied a business certificate. And after the year of doing that, I didn't want to do the second year. I was just like, I don't know if this is really up my alley either. And then I thought, all right, I'm going to get into travel and tourism. And so I went and studied at a private college and did a 6-month course on travel and tourism. And then I started working in a travel agency. And then I went into retail, and then I started managing different stores. Then I moved to England and I managed a hotel over there. And then I came back and I went back into retail. And then eventually I ended up in nightclubs, and I was doing nightclubs and basically starting my own fashion label. And then at the same time, running nightclubs. So there was all these things happening in my life, and I really didn't have an understanding of what I was going to do with my life. And so at 23, when or 22, when I had this overdose, and then I found myself at church at the age of 23, I still didn't know what I was going to do. And 3 years into that, I found myself going, man, what am I going to do with my life? And I was 26 and I went into Bible college, and most of the students were 18, 19, 20. So I felt a little bit older, finished at the age of 30. But I feel like it was all perfect timing for me, and stuff started to get clear, and calling and purpose. And so I've been on staff with Hillsong Church now for 13 years, and it's been amazing. And been in San Francisco for the last 2.5 years. We moved our family, 2 sons and my wife. We moved over here 2.5 years ago, and started the campus here in San Francisco. So it's been
Awesome.
A wild journey.
Yeah, you're telling me. And where did you meet Jackie, your wife? Was it at college?
No, actually, it's a crazy story, but we first met when I was working in retail. She was working in retail in a shopping center, and so a friend of ours introduced us, and I thought she was cute. She had a boyfriend at the time, And so then
Oh,
I didn't really think anything of it. And then in that space, I was running nightclubs and then working in retail. And then I had that encounter that I just talked about and ended up in Hillsong Church. And then I left the store that I was working in and got transferred to another store, same company. And we didn't see each other for about a year. And then I saw her at a friend's farewell party. He was moving to London and he was a hairdresser for Tony and Guy. And he was going over there to start his whole hair fashion career. And he was having his farewell party. And she was there. She came along with some of the friends that were friends with him. And I saw her and we're like, hey, what are you doing? And we just started connecting and we talked. And yeah, the rest is history. We've been together 18 and a half years. I led her to the Lord.
oh,
And
dang.
yeah, and yeah, and then we've been married 15 years. So it's been an
Wow.
amazing journey.
So you flirt to convert, or?
Flirt to convert. Yes, that's right.
That's
As
wow.
some say.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So, what has been the biggest roadblock or hurdle you've had to face since graduating college?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, look, there's been so many different ones depending on if it's a personal one, if it's leadership, if it's church related. I mean, one of the big moves is obviously moving country. You leave your friends, you leave your family, you leave everything you've known. You move into a city where you know nobody. And I mean, we knew a handful of people who had been part of Hillsong Bible College, but other than that, we knew nobody in this city. We'd only ever been here. We came 4 days on our honeymoon. We traveled through, we did a bit of a trip, and San Francisco was the last stop. And that was, in 2005. And then the next time we came here was 2017, I think it was, early 2017. And we would just check in San Francisco out for 10 days. So we made a decision on moving to San Francisco and only ever been here 14 days in our whole lives.
Wow.
And we're moving our family and that. And so that was huge, because there's obviously a lot of emotion. It sounds glamorous. You're moving countries. You're going to go plant a church. You're going to go do something great. And you don't realize the sacrifice that you're making when it comes to, hey man, like you're not going to see your parents every day. You're not going to see, we're going to close family. You're not going to see my brother, his 3 kids that, my nieces and nephews miss them like crazy. My wife, obviously Jackie, she has a brother he's got little girls as well. And so they're all at infant stages. And so we're missing their day-to-day growing up and we'd see them quite often. So huge sacrifice. So that's probably been the biggest challenge of coming here and, having many nights where we've basically been in tears crying, going, man, like we love what we're doing. We know we're called here, but we miss our family, and so just navigating that personally, I think has been huge for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I could kind of relate to that, but I have to admit my family's only like an 8-hour car drive away, but
Yeah.
I miss out on my niece and nephew. It's always good to see them, but can't imagine how it's like for you guys.
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's the same, I think especially with family, I think family is the most important thing, and I know you have an amazing family as well, and seeing them and as much as you can, you want to see them because they're your flesh and blood and, so, I mean, FaceTime's awesome. So I thank God for
Yeah.
FaceTime, and then we can send each other videos and all that kind of stuff. So it's good.
Awesome. So what's been the most practical way you put to use all that you study so far?
Um, I think everything you study, like I don't think, for me personally, like college is college, right? You learn a lot of information and it's awesome. And we always say at Hillsong College, it's more about what's caught than what's taught. You can get taught a lot of information. You can hear a lot of information. The amount of sermons I've sat under, the amount of lectures I've been in, the amount of times I've heard a leadership message over the last, 19 years is I couldn't even count. But it's not so much what is taught. It's about it's what's caught in the spirit, because that becomes who you are. That becomes your identity. That becomes the culture. And culture is not always about what you say. It's about how you live, and you embody culture. And so for me, I think you use everything you've learned every day of your life, and, and sometimes you'll draw out wisdom, you draw out story, you draw out experience, depending on the situation and circumstance that you are a part of in that moment, and so I love what TD Jakes says. TD Jakes says, life is like a university. Every day I wake up and go to school.
Nice.
And I love that because I think you can learn something from everybody, and you can learn something from anybody, and you can learn something from education. You can learn something from things that you watch. You can learn. I love people watching.
Yeah.
And, by watching people, I watch life lessons unfold right before my eyes. And, I think the way people interact and treat each other, you can learn a lot about how to deal with people and work with people. And so that's probably my favorite type of learning is watching people.
Yeah. That's awesome how you like never undervalue anyone. I was recently talking to some friends. We're talking about this before, my former roommates in Milwaukee, and they're all saying that they had really good experiences with you and that they're really glad how you got to where you are today, that you're really down to earth. So, yeah, thanks for never undervaluing anyone and you just place value on everyone you meet.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you. Is that
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Josh,
Josh
Luke,
is the
and his
man.
wife, and yeah, oh, Hannah. Sorry, I need to
Awesome.
mention her name, or else she'll
Yeah.
get mad at me.
Shout out, Hannah.
Yeah,
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 that's awesome.
yeah. They're awesome people. But so you've had a lot of jobs. What are two must-need tips when searching for the right one?
Look, I think jobs are one of those things that Pastor Brian always says this. He goes, "A career is what you're paid to do, but a calling is what you're made to do."
Nice.
And for me, when it comes to career and calling, I think you have to find something that you have purpose for. Because if you have purpose and you have meaning towards what you're doing, there's a significant aspect to it. And I think, every human being is looking to be significant in some sort of way, leave a significant impact, leave a legacy, leave a mark. You find that people are often, they want to be seen, they want to know that someone sees them. And so I think significance is a huge part of the soul. And I think where people really struggle in their careers is when they don't feel significant. It's not a significant job. They just feel like it's a 9 to 5. There's no purpose. And I guess that's what I wrestled with. I went from working at the horse races, like bookmaking stuff, and then into nightclubs and working in a pharmaceutical company, working for a travel company, and working in a retail store, trying to do my own label. And there was all these things that I was trying to do, but I just never felt like it was the right fit. And I think, when I went to Bible college and things started to get clear about my purpose and calling and even gifts, understanding who I am, understanding how I've been created to live, and the gifts and callings on my life, and start to appreciate them. Because like for so often in my life, I would look at somebody else's gift and I'm like, I want what they have. I want their gift. I want their calling. I want my life to look more like them. And it was only when I started to realize, no, no, I'm not created to be somebody else. I'm only created to be Brenden. And just like you're only created to be Isaiah, and anyone listening today is not created to be us, they're created to be them. And I think that when you find your grace zone and you feel comfortable in your own skin, I feel like purpose starts to come alive. And I think that it takes time to get to that point. Some people get it straight away. For me, it was a while. I had to take time. I went through all of that journey. But I think, if you're really seeking after purpose and meaning, significance, like you'll find it. And ways to do that would be ask yourself, what am I good at? Ask yourself, what do I love doing? What could I see myself doing for free and not getting paid for? Because that will determine your passions as well. What do other people see that I'm good at? So asking friends, people that know you well, because sometimes you don't realize, but you've got gifts on your life and you don't even appreciate those gifts or value those gifts because you just think that's who you are. But then people look at you and go, man, this is exactly what you do really well. And by you hearing that time and time again, it starts to add to your purpose and go, oh, maybe there's something in this. And you start to discover it and it starts to unfold before you. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about gifts. So you're a great preacher. I'm not afraid to say it. But
Thank you.
I feel like you've had to really put on hold during this COVID season. Have you been using other gifts that you haven't usually had to put on, display?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you realize, in ministry, a lot of people see you or see me as a pastor and they go, "Oh, his main job is preaching." But the reality is, when you're a pastor, your main job is not preaching. That might be like 2% of what you do in your week. It's a 30-minute sermon in an hour and a half service or whatever it is, and and you might do that twice or three times on a weekend, but the rest of your week you're with people, or you're pastoring people, you're innovating, you're creating, you're coming up with, concepts. And I feel like the modern day pastor is almost like a business CEO. They've got to have this mindset of, how do I take things forward? How do we create? How do we innovate? How can we reach people? How can we come up with something that's going to really add value to society? And so you're almost innovating, creating all the time. Your meetings are, I don't know, my mindset of a pastor growing up, I guess, was the pastor just kind of prays and that's all he does,
Yeah.
or goes and visits the sick. And I mean, that I do that. I go visit the sick. I do weddings, at funerals, you walk with people on their journey from, I always say, from birth to death, and everything in between. You celebrate with them when they're celebrating, you mourn with them when they're mourning, you get invited to some of their parties or dinners or whatever. And, you do life with people, and it's fantastic, and it's very rewarding. But I think the modern day pastor, has to be very entrepreneurial in terms of, how do I grow? How do I reach people? How do we help change a suburb or a city or a nation? And so you're always thinking you got to have the right people on your team. It's never just about one person. And I'll be the first to say that. We've got 4 staff members here in San Francisco, but I mean, we have a team of about 150 volunteers every single weekend when church is on and we're meeting in the normal building. And so these people are professionals, highly skilled people who are CEOs. Many of them work in companies like YouTube or Twitter or Uber or Facebook or Instagram, in the medical industry, in law. And so you're working with highly skilled professional people who all have a heart to say, I want to serve the local community. And by doing so, they bring their gifts and talents to the church. And then as a leader, you've got to go, well, how do they fit in the big picture of making this work on a Sunday, or a midweek event? And so you've got to be about people. I think if you're a pastor, you've got to be about raising people, empowering people, equipping people, and serving people, lifting them up and giving them opportunity and releasing them into their God-given destiny. And I think that's what our senior pastors, Brian and Bobby, have done so well over the years. I mean, I'm this young guy that walked into our church in 2001, and they didn't know me from a bar of soap, but yet over time, I guess I proved myself. You could say they saw the gifts on my life. They saw faithfulness. They saw consistency. They spoke into my life. They believed. They released. They gave opportunity. I failed. They gave me opportunity. I failed again. They gave me more opportunity. And they're just releasing leaders. And that's the way that I think I've now gone, I want to emulate that. I want to lead like that. I want to be someone who raises people. I want to be someone who lifts people's lives. I want to be someone who lifts people's heads, And I think the gospel is all about that. It's about lifting their lives and lifting the heads of people. And I just think it's very powerful, the gospel, that can change someone's life. And, Pastor Brian always says, if God wanted to condemn the world, he would have sent a condemner, but instead he wanted to save the world, so he sent a savior. And I think that's what we're meant to emulate, is we're meant to lift people's lives, to a better standard.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're talking about leading people. What's the difference between managing or leading?
Oh, look, I think managing is just about maintaining. Leading is about taking things forward, and both have their places in society, and both have their I guess, have in their structure and system that there's a necessity. So sometimes I am managing things, and then other times I'm leading things. It depends on what hat am I wearing at the time, because in San Francisco, I'm leading the campus, but across California, I'm a campus pastor under leadership. And so again, then I'm like sometimes managing what we're doing as a whole. And so you've got to know what hat am I wearing at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's one tip you would give to someone who wants to do what you do?
Look, I definitely think I would say go to Bible college. I love that. And I think the other thing that I would say is you're going to have to die to yourself, because being a pastor is about serving people. And Jesus said, if you want to be great, and he had nothing against greatness, he said, if you want to be great, then become the servant of all. And I think, that's what being a pastor is about. It's what being a Christian's about. If you're a Christian, you should be serving people, not just in church on Sunday, but serving people in your workplace, serving your boss, serving, those who are alongside of you, serving those that are subordinates or under you in leadership, that you've been given a role. Like, your whole job is to serve. And by serving people, you help them become great. And by doing so, I believe it raises the platform that you have.
Awesome. And life expectations before and after college, how had they changed?
Oh, I don't know, I guess before coming to Christ in 2001, I really didn't have any expectations. I didn't really have my dreams were all over the place. I was a bit scattered. And then, from 2001 to now, I think my dreams have changed, but they haven't changed. I just want to build the church. I want to help people in whatever context that looks like, and wherever I'm serving at in a season, then I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. For me, I went from running a service on Sunday night at our Hills campus to running young adults to running a campus in Sydney, now running a campus here in San Francisco. Plus, in between that, I've been a chaplain at professional sports clubs and to many athletes around the world. And so for me, it's been just this, whatever gets put in front of me, I'm just going to do it. And I know that, God will open up the doors that I need to walk through, and I trust him with my future. So yeah, I think for me, my big goals and ambitions would be just to be a faithful husband and love my wife to the end of my days. Be the best dad I can possibly be gracious to my kids, give them every opportunity I can to raise their lives and give them opportunity. And then just for the church that I'm leading, just to be the pastor that, I'm never going to be a perfect pastor or perfect leader, but just be authentic and genuine with people. And hopefully that reciprocates, that they can feel the love and genuine support that we have for them.
So how has it been being a pastor? I know that it can feel like the work never stops in a sense. Mm-hmm. How do you know when to call it a day?
I don't know, man. I wear my heart, like I'm ready 24/7. Like last night I did a lecture to Australia, a college in a Hillsong College, and it was like 8:45. I started, finished at 10:45 last night. Tonight I'm speaking at a conference in Japan, and I'm going to set my alarm and get up at 3 a.m. and preach. Wow. And so for me, I don't know. I just see it as an honor and privilege, man, to do what I do. And if someone's calling me in the middle of the night and my phone's on and I wake up, I'm going to answer it, because who knows what's going on in their lives. And if I can be a support or help to them, then I will be. I don't always get it right, but I think, I always say you're a Christian 24/7, mm-hmm. And even as a pastor, my job's not 9 to 5, it's there for people, and you've got to put boundaries around, obviously, and, I make sure I, my days off are really like focused on my family. I make that a big priority, my kids' sport or doing stuff with them. That's huge for me. Just, family's important. And then my wife, date nights and all of that kind of stuff, make that a priority as well. But we've just always lived our life open, and just love people the best way we can love people and be there for them in their times of need. And I think that's what the gospel's about. Yeah.
Yeah. And my dad, he's a pastor. I remember him always being super busy, but he was always still there for like our basketball games and spending time with us. But I'm just wondering, like, how do you balance all that, being a father or husband and still showing up to the little things while being committed to the bigger things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been intentional. Like for me, my favorite thing to do is watch, my son, my eldest son, he's a soccer player and I love soccer, but I love watching him play. So, I mean, there's been countless times where I've been on the other side of the world. So maybe in Brazil while we're living in Australia, or in, Europe while we've been living in America. And when his game's on, I'll FaceTime no matter what time the game is. I'll get up and I'll FaceTime and I'll make sure I ring him just before the match. So I'm going to be watching, because I never want him to think, oh, church took dad away from me. And so, obviously it's hard sometimes because I travel and minister and do all that kind of stuff, and I'm at meetings and all those sort of things. But I think when it comes to the real, calling on my life is to be a dad and a husband first before I'm a pastor. And I make that a huge priority. So just being intentional with that is very, very important for me. And I think I learned, like, my parents are very present growing up, which I'm so thankful for. I know a lot of people don't have that, but my parents were very present. My dad and mum were at every one of our soccer games. Unless we traveled overseas or interstate, they might not have came, but all our ones locally, they were always there, shouting out on the sidelines. So Jackie's probably more vocal than me on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I do more of the talking afterwards or at halftime. I'm like, hey, let's do this, But yeah, Jackie's very vocal as well on the sidelines, and we just love it. We're passionate about our kids and passionate about family, and so I think you've got to be intentional with that. And I think when it comes to the whole work-life balance, like, everyone's in the same boat, right? There's parents that are working. They might be listening today, and they're working huge amount of hours every week just to put bread on the table or food on the table and get their kids a good college education, and huge shout out to them because they're doing the best they can. But I do think when it comes to leading your family, it's not so much about the quantity of time, it's about the quality of time. And so whatever that looks like for us, we love playing board games. And so we'll do that. We have dinner every night together when we're home. Unless I'm out at a meeting or I'm away overseas, every night we eat together as a family. We pray at the dinner table, we eat together. And it's just a priority that we've made it, and I think you've got to be intentional about that.
Awesome. And we're going to start to wind down a bit. Are there any books, podcasts, or learning resources that you're into at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a whole bunch of different things, man. Like, I'm so interested in Shark Tank. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. So yeah. I just finished a book on Shark Tank, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And I've been listening to the Barbara Corcoran podcast. I listen to Gary Vee. He's awesome. And then obviously when it comes to church leadership, Pastor Brian's podcast, Pastor Brian Houston, his podcast is phenomenal. I love listening to TD Jakes. His podcast is amazing. And then a bunch of audiobooks. I really love audiobooks. And so this year alone, I've listened to quite a few books. I'll let you know some of them because they're amazing. One of the best ones that I've listened to was The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. Phenomenal book. Emotional Intelligence, Today Matters by John Maxwell. Amazing book. Very, very, if someone feels overwhelmed, they're listening to this about life and future, like, they should listen to this book, Today Matters by John Maxwell, because really all you have power in is right now, this moment, engaging with the now. Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Fantastic book, really to get the heart and the core issues of what someone believes. White Fragility, listen to that. $1 Trillion Coach, awesome. The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, amazing. Abba's Child by Brandon Manning, amazing. For anyone that needs to know the love of God, that book is phenomenal. Shoe Dog, the story of Phil Knight and Nike, amazing book. And The Prayer of Protection by Pastor Joseph Prince. I love that book. I've read that like twice this year. Fantastic book. And I'm halfway through Captivology, which seems pretty cool. It's about marketing and sales, and it's just awesome. And then a highly recommended book, Wealthy Gardener, by John Sorofick, amazing. And then for any parents with boys, Wild Things by Stephen James and David Thomas, amazing book, really, really cool. And just spoke to where I was at as a dad with my kids and their age and what I can expect for their next couple of years as they grow into their teenage years and stuff. And so it was cool, very insightful. So I've been listening to a whole bunch of books as well as reading the Bible. Nice. I love that book, especially. Yeah.
You just broke the record on the book recommendations. But yeah.
I actually wrote today on Draymond, the guy who is on Shark Tank. I followed him on Instagram, and he wrote what book is a highly recommended book. And so everyone was writing one book. I put a list of 10 books.
Oh my goodness. Man.
Yeah. I love education, I love growing. I think that leaders are learners, leaders are readers. And so some people like reading, paper books, others listen, whatever it is. I just think it's important to keep growing and keep learning as leaders.
Yeah. Are you learning any new skills during this COVID season?
I actually learned how just to edit videos a little bit better.
Nice.
And so that was early on, because what happened was we didn't have online services for Hillsong. And so within a week, we had to start to do online services. And then we found that our kids ministry didn't have online services. So we're like, oh, what are we going to do? And so I just put my hand up and said, I'll help edit the videos and pull it together.
Wow.
And so I had to learn how to edit and watched a couple of courses, which was really cool. And then I started learning guitar. But to be honest, I did like maybe 8 lessons. And I was doing okay. I was able to play one song. But then, this whole season got involved, went crazy. And it was just I had to put something down. Like, I got to put that down for now. I'll get back to it. But yeah, it's not a priority for me to be playing guitar. I just wanted to do it for fun. So
yeah, you can always go back to it. So it's all good.
Absolutely. What about you? Have you learned anything?
Probably same stuff you're saying. A lot of editing, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for this. GarageBand, iMovie, now on YouTube. So yeah, I'm just trying to. It takes me about 4 hours a week to get all this stuff set. So I'm trying to bring that down because school starts next week. So hey, I'm still learning. Yeah, but yeah. Just one more question for you. It's a 2-parter. If there was one thing you could ask your future self, what would it be? And if there's one thing you could tell your high school self, what would it be?
Ooh, if I could tell my future self, I would say what you learn financially and with investments was worth it.
Nice.
And what I could tell my high school self is learn about finance and investments.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's so important, like especially in a culture obviously we're filming this podcast in America, and who knows who's going to watch it all around the world, but America is very built on the credit system, where Australia is completely different to that. And so you don't need to have a credit rating to get loans or anything like that in Australia, whereas here it's very different. And you can see and you can hear in conversations, plus do the research, that there are so many young people in debt. And I would just say, learn to invest early and get into real estate and all of that kind of stuff, because the earlier you can do it, the more you'll set yourself up for your future. Put stuff away for your retirement, which I never did earlier on in my life. And I've had to learn that in the last 10 years, really had to start to knuckle down and learn and educate myself in those areas. Because I was never taught it. And so I guess that's what I would say to my younger self. And I would encourage any young person listening today to really invest in your financial future.
Nice. Shout out to Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. Hey, Dave Ramsey is awesome.
Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, thank you for coming on. I guess that's about it, but thank you for your time.
Hey man, absolutely loved it. You're doing an awesome job.
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
And I just wanted to encourage you before you go that you're a good man, and a lot of people look up to you because you not only know who you are, but you know who God is, and just keep shining, keep loving God and loving people, because you got this.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing, because I love that you're encouraging people to just keep speaking up. And I love that you're interviewing people and having chats with them and finding out about their stories. It's pretty awesome. It's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. It's the best part of the job. This is like the preaching part for me, while all the other stuff. Oh man. But yeah. Anything you want to promote at the moment? I guess Hillsong services or anything you're working on?
I mean, we have services every weekend, Hillsong California YouTube, but yeah, that would be it.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, take care. Great catching up. And for everyone else, until next time, as we're maturing, we're going to keep learning, stirring up, and chasing after what our Creator created us to do. So have a good one, everyone. Peace.
See ya.